All right, super. I was in preparing for this. Hi, I'm Katie Hendricks. I think I probably know most of you, but if this is a new gathering for you, welcome. We're so happy to have you come and join us for our regular explorations of fundamental concepts in transformation and how they might apply to your everyday life. And I have several things that I want to share with you. But I wanted to have you first just listen to these phrases and notice how you respond to them at a whole body level. So, not just what you think about it, but what body sensations do you notice? Do you notice any emotions, any feelings when you hear these phrases? So, I was just trying to help. So, I'll say that one again. I can say it in a little bit different. I was just trying to help. So, you can have different tonalities with this. So, that's one. I was trying to protect you. I was trying to protect you. And so just notice how you respond to that. Um, you hurt me. If you hadn't said that, I'd feel so much better. So I can even see some of you stop breathing with that one. So that's a real body sensation. So I've been noticing the phrases that I've been hearing a lot just recently are, I was only trying to help. I was only trying to protect you. So this is, I check, one of the ways that you can check what's going on in society is what's going on the various dramas that you see in streaming services. And so that one is very big right now. One that used to be big, but it's been a little bit superseded by I was only trying to help is, what could I do? He's family. Or what could I do? She was family. So these, in my opinion, are all representations of seeing yourself from within the drama triangle. And I want to explore with you today some fundamentals about the triangle, what we call the drama triangle, but also some ways to get out. And they may be a little bit new to you, and they're body based, and it can actually be a lot of fun. So just see if you're willing to have fun with what we're doing tonight. And what I want to ask you each to do is to select an issue that has recurred. So, like, no matter what you've done, this issue has recurred, and it can be a recurring issue with you. It could be with you and your body. It could be with you and your life choices. It could be between you and another person. It could be between you and a group. It could be between you and God. It could be between you and the government. So an ongoing issue that has not resolved. And I'd like you to take a moment to select it. And I'd like you to actually create a page, an empty page where you can take notes on it. You can write down your reactions, because I'm going to ask you to apply what we're exploring tonight to this issue. And what would be valuable is one that, despite your best efforts, is still hanging around. Like, I've done everything and it's still here. So, right, you can get a really good, your own about that. So I want everybody to have one. And so take a moment to decide what that's going to be for you, and jot it down someplace, maybe at the top of that page. So while you're doing that, I wanted to let you know that I have been exploring the Karpman triangle, Stephen Karpman, who first originated this brilliant description of what I call the core story. It's the core old story that's going on in the world, of the victim, the villain, and the hero. And Cartman originally talked about them as the victim. The victim gets to say the same, but he called it the persecutor and the rescuer. And I decided that I wanted to update those and to make them more contemporary. So the hero, victim, and villain is something that we've been using for, gosh, at least 30 years. And we have, for those of you who want to really dive into how do I experience the triangle, what can I do to understand my role in creating these kinds of recurring dramas, in our Essentials Online. It's a set of videos that I created several years ago from our gathering that used to be called Essentials. So we have Essentials Online, and there are at least 2, maybe 3 videos. They're all about the triangle. And you'll get to see people exploring them in a group, and the group participating with it, and people really finding that they can play their way out of the triangle. And it's really one of the only ways to move from the triangle into presence and into your current life is through play. And so we'll say more about that. But I wonder if, Michelle, could you put the link to that in the chat? Great. I'm sure you probably had already done that, but I just wanted to acknowledge, thank you. So that's a resource for you that I highly recommend, if you really want to understand experientially how to play with the triangle. I was also, as I was preparing, I heard the first line from Thaddeus Golis's book, The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, which I want to recommend to you. It's from a very long time ago. And Gay actually had the pleasure of meeting Thaddeus Golis. He lived, I believe, in Florida at the time. I don't know if he's still alive. Gay would know. Here's the first line of The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. We are equal beings, and the universe is our relations with each other. I really love that. We are equal beings, and the universe is our relations with each other. And so, in other words, we are creating the universe by our choices and our actions. And his attitude that we are equal beings is in contrast to the triangle, which is that we're not equal beings. And whatever I'm doing, that's the right way to do it. And the way you're doing it is the wrong way to do it. And so that then takes us into what a lot of dynamics call power over and power with. But the triangle is all about power over and power under. And so I want you to get in touch with your item, and then I want to just give you a sort of a basic body understanding of the victim, the villain, and the hero. So the victim is basically poor me. So I'd like you to just go ahead and say that out loud, in kind of your most whiny way, poor me. And when I do that, I can feel in my body, especially my chest collapses. Yeah, I go, poor me. And I sink. And I go right into power under, because I can't, nothing I ever do works. And you don't even have to words, so you can just whine, because the victim whines, and so it's a wonder too, because when the victim sort of elicits the villain, because you just want to smack somebody who just only whines, and and so they play together just very nicely. So notice if there's any poor me, I can't, I just, I try and I can't, if there's any of that in your item. So when you contemplate your item, is there any way in which you're holding your item from the viewpoint of the victim? This is the 4th time I've tried to do this and just nothing ever works. So I think everybody, that was really clear. And one of the things that we've said for a long time, that when I say we, I mean Gay and me, have said is that all in relationships, all arguments are a race for the victim position. And that's how things devolve, right? Rachel, they kind of go, I've got it worse than you do. Oh, you think you have it bad. You didn't have my day. Well, you didn't have to, and off you go into the race for the victim position. And then that also tends to elicit the hero, the rescuer. And in recent years, I've become convinced that the hero is really the secret villain of the triangle. It's the hero that keeps the triangle going. And so I want to spend some time with you tonight, it's tonight my time, of looking at where do I fall into hero? Because hero gets tremendously rewarded. And so the hero, I was thinking of what is that energetically? And we know that what the hero does is what I call anticipatory helping. So I get out ahead of the situation with my helper, and my helper interrupts what's going on in order to be able to get over into your space and to take more than 100% responsibility. So the hero is the one, oh, I can do that. Oh, I'll take care of that. Oh, do you need anything? Oh, but it has a quality of not recognizing, remember that we are equals, we are equal beings. So the hero doesn't believe that. In fact, every position on the triangle does not believe or act from that we are equal beings. So the hero really is doing power over, and it doesn't look like it, but my example of how the hero keeps other people from accessing and operating in their own equality is my super competent, which was so well developed. I'm quite sure I could have run the country, and I could certainly run it better than the last administration ran it. And my super competent, I thought, well, if I'm not, it's kind of a little red hen for those of you who know that old story about the little red hen who just really thinks that she just has to do everything and she can't get anybody to help her. And meanwhile, she's marching around doing everything herself. And then at the end, won't let anybody help her. The hero gets to feel superior. And it's and treating other people as kind of poor you, you just really don't know what you're doing. And I noticed my super competent had begun to melt down, and then I started to look at, well, is it possible for me to live my life without my super competent? And I thought, yes, I actually have been able to do that, because what I realized is that people would be functioning, like the folks with whom I was interacting and had agreements with would be doing just fine until I showed up. And then they would sort of mess up in one way or another. And I began to look at, does this have anything to do with me? And I realized if I'm a super competent, how can I be a super competent if everybody around me is competent? And so I realized that, and this is true, I believe, for every position on the triangle, is that you require other people to take the other roles. And so my super competent basically required other people to be victims. And then I would move back and forth between the hero and the villain. And if people weren't grateful, I would step over into I become a martyr, which is a combination of the villain and the victim. Like, I'm doing my best and nobody appreciates me. So I would like you to just take a look at if there's any, where people, here's some examples of hero, where people finish your sentence for you. Say, I'd really like to, you'd like to go to the market. Me too. And, so you haven't finished your own energy expression. And so it's what sometimes people call getting up in another person's grill. So heroes are like, no, just over there in your space. And so notice if there's any of that. And definitely, I was just trying to help. I saw this on a drama the other night where someone was saying, I was just trying to protect you. And the woman said, protect me from what? of course he never answered that, but that whole sense of my role is to protect, and men are in society are very acculturated to that role. It goes with being the provider, is that my role is to protect you. And what that deprives the other person of is learning how to source their own safety, learning how to source their own presence, their own choices. And so all of these have to do with a misunderstanding of responsibility. So the villain, okay, so we've got the victim collapses. The hero, I think of the hero as being, I had a friend once who was telling this great story about how she had put her clothes in the dryer and then pulled out a coat that still had the dryer sheets on it. And when she was moving around in the world with it, and the dryer sheets were, and she thought she was just gorgeous, and she had this coat on, but the dryer sheets were falling off of it as she was going along. And there's a sense in which the hero is messy and doesn't have a clear sense of, this is your experience. Let me hear about your experience. And this is my experience. And I want to share what I'm experiencing. And then we have that relationship with each other. And so I would like you to see if there's any, kind of nosy intrusiveness. I think I can do this better, but I won't tell you because I don't want to bother you. I'll just go ahead and handle it. That's going on with your item. And when you're in hero, when I'm in hero, I get up and forward in my body. It's this kind of an anticipatory stance. So let yourself experiment with how you step into hero. When you're in hero, what do you do in your body that could let you know that you've moved into the over, sort of the overlord? It'd be kind of like, running a plantation, and you know how to run things, and other people, they need to be directed because, gosh and golly, they just don't know any better. So it's a basic devaluing of other folks, that they're just not, able to make choices and be responsible. So all of the hero, the victim, and the villain are out of body experiences. And the best way to step out of the triangle into presence is by giving attention to what you're doing in your body and intervening there. The best way to keep the triangle going is to talk about it because you will always get, there's, they fight for the victim position. I can't believe you said that, and you hurt my feelings, and all of these things that just keep you going round and round. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to suggest the essentials online, because you will literally see people going round and round and finally getting, oh, my choices are making me go round and round in the triangle, rather than really owning my own creativity and my own responsibility. So I want to just pause for a moment before I continue and see if anybody has any aha or a question or example that they would like to offer. You can also put it in the chat. So if you're feeling shy about speaking up, but you have something to share, you can absolutely put it in the chat also. But if you do, okay, so Rhonda, do you have something you'd like to share? Yeah, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Bottom
Okay.
left corner.
Thanks. And then we'll get to Kathleen's. I see one in the chat. Okay, can we hear you yet?
Oh, she's unmuted, but Rhonda, it looks like your mic isn't working. Maybe check your Zoom settings.
Super, thank you. And also you can write in the chat and we can get to it then. So what was written, what was the one that came through on the chat, Michelle? And then we'll come to you, Raphael.
Which role is the people pleaser? check.
Okay, and there was one before that too, but I'll take that one. What role is the people pleaser? Well, go ahead and try on. See, when I'm playing with roles, the most dynamic and fun way to do that is to actually take on the physical role of the people pleaser. So everybody just do that for a moment and go ahead, and the key to this is exaggerating, because mostly we hide this from ourselves. So if you exaggerate the people pleaser, for me, it is an offshoot of it's primarily hero, but it's got a little bit of victim around the ankles. That you've got the, oh, but I'm sinking. So the people pleaser, the hero locates their well-being in others. So rather than locating your own well-being in you, it depends on how other people are responding to you and how they're doing. And it's in some places what we would call codependency, but the actual thing that happens is that you bilocate, instead of having your own experience and feeling your own experience, you bilocate. Now, and was there one before that, Michelle?
No, that was just Rhonda saying she had the mic issue.
Got it. Okay, great. And Raphael, what do you have?
Oh, hi, Katie. It's good to be here with you and everybody else. So one of the things I noticed that I still have this ongoing, I think I know what other people need.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful way of putting it. And I
Convers-
just love the gentle way in which you're saying that.
Yeah,
It's just so inviting. And I would want to go, oh, yes. Oh, please.
right. Yeah, and I can yeah, thanks for that. I appreciate that. And I do catch myself in the moment when it's happening, and it's kind of this ongoing thing. And
Yeah.
I'm gentle with myself about it and my awareness. Oh yeah, I did that and
Uh-huh.
that kind of stuff. Yeah, and there's also something I'll sort of want to speak over others.
Yeah.
Because since I know what they
because you
need
got it. You already understand what the person's saying and you just want to demonstrate you're with them. You're with them.
exactly. Yeah.
And so what comes to me as you're saying that is that I come back to, we are equal beings. And am I willing to experience us as equal beings? And for me, that would be recommitting to seeing us as equal beings. And in fact, maybe even committing to seeing you as my ally.
Yeah.
And that was a real game changer for me, making that commitment. And when I do that, another thing that's assisted me is, what am I experiencing right now? What am I actually experiencing? And getting curious about what the other one is actually experiencing. I can remember many times in the early part of my relationship with Gay, because I was very much, I noticed what he needed before he knew what he needed. And so it was, like the surgical energy nurse. And I remember him saying many times to me, this is my experience. I'm just sharing my experience. Now, you're having your experience and this is my experience. And so that, it's like unthwacking, a piece of taffy, that's stuck to your shoe, because we get a lot of goodies, especially from being the hero. People go, oh, we have songs about it, about how we need more heroes. And the heroes always have more to do, of course, because there's more and more going wrong. So, the heroes, get to wear the capes, but they also attract the villains. And then everybody else gets to be the victims, in this big shooting match.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks so much for the example. Did you have more you want to share about it?
Yeah,
Or
no, that's good.
right now?
I'm good with things. Thank you for now.
Yeah.
This is good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Raphael. All right, great. And Nancy, what you got?
I was thinking about, well, the hero, especially because I told you I was a nurse for 40 years. And I think that I was thinking about there must be some kind of payoff for being in that role, because if I jump in and already anticipate someone's need, there's a little bit of maybe one-upmanship, I was thinking. Like that you were talking about the inequality. So
yes, I tend the power over, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I tend to pick people that I can do that with.
Yes. And so at the root of that for me was the belief that I have to keep demonstrating that I'm worthwhile.
Yeah, there's something with that. Yeah, because yeah, there is something about that for me. I
Yeah, and I
believe
think
that.
that your curiosity, I want to appreciate and support your curiosity because that's
Okay.
the key thing. So as you follow that, that's going to lead you to what you need to learn
Mm,
so that you can take 100% responsibility. So in a minute, I'll talk more about responsibility, but the real key there is that in each of the roles, you're not taking 100% responsibility.
ugh.
And the hero regularly takes way more than 100% responsibility. And then you get burnt out and then you get to go, oh, I'm working so hard and I'm so stressed and, but nobody ever helps me. And then you slide into the victim.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's how the game operates. So
Okay,
yeah. So great recognition.
thank you.
Sure. And Rachel.
Hi, Katie. Yeah. I always come in like with an issue that came in, and then when we come right here, like that it's all relative. I've done a tremendous amount of work around this, and I still notice that clearly I played every single one of these roles. I can wear them like a cloak and they're still gonna come up. You can't rip them out. And I literally just was in a thing with somebody on a phone where I was recognizing I was being triggered and I was about to lash. And I said, I need to take responsibility for this is so different than how I used to do this. I need to take responsibility. I'm getting triggered right now and I'm about to lash at you. So I'm going to get off the phone. I'm going to calm myself and then I'm going to call you back. And then when I got back on the phone with them, this is someone I'm newly dating. I said, listen, I'm being triggered right now. This is my responsibility. I would like to own blah, blah, blah. And we just had a beautiful conversation. And it was
Great.
Bessie. I said, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah. Well,
this is new.
Of course you don't.
And so, but I just reckon it's so freeing to hear you and everyone talking like, hey, we all do this. And before I never even recognized like in the roles that I was playing and like how I used to lead and how I used to mentor came from a hero / villain place.
Yes.
And it wasn't a pretty look and I'm not proud of it.
And are you doing a certain amount of blaming yourself? So you're stepping over into
right
the villain.
now.
Yeah. I wasn't proud of myself and I could have done a better job. And yeah. So what I wanted to underline for you and for all of us is that your phrase, I've done a tremendous amount of work. And so what I want to say is what you get really good at then is working. And I've found that the triangle only opens up with play. And the kind of play that really makes a difference is exaggerating what you are doing. So with your interaction that you just had, you were wanting to lash out. You could say, I can see myself in my cape and I've got my whip, and I'm about to lash out at you, that you're taking it into, in fact, when I have people play with us, I have them drop the words out and they can only make sounds and gestures. So finding ways to exaggerate the role will give you a way to loosen up its grip. And that is by far the most effective way to loosen up the triangle, is to learn how to play with it. And the only thing you need to do is to do more of what you're already doing.
But without the verbiage of work.
Well, you can have, well, that's what you're doing. So you're going to do what you're doing. And so what usually people will do in any kind of transformation setting is stop doing what you're doing. Stop doing that and do something else. And that's really tough to do. I've only known a couple of people in my life who could actually do that. Go, okay, I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing. I'm going to do something else. That's a very high level of ownership of yourself. But if you recognize and are curious about what you're doing and you do it more, then you begin to, it begins to get funny. it begins to get not so serious and not so life-threatening. And you actually begin to go, oh, there she goes again. She's, she's got her, she's got her villain, she's got, you can start playing with it. And it's a recognition. And then it allows like your essence to get bigger than that thing that you're doing right now. And you can witness it and you can become passionate about it. But you can also play with it. I have never seen anybody get out of the triangle by working on it. So stop doing that. Yes, exactly. Oh, yeah. There you go. Exaggerating. It helps.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. And Joyce, hello.
Hi, nice to meet you. This is my first time coming to one of your talks, so it's a pleasure.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. And so I noticed first that I made an entire career out of being the hero.
Yes. And I bet a good career too.
Yeah, as a like film and TV producer, my job was to solve every problem that came my way.
Mm-hmm.
And I took so much pride in that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so did I bet other people said, you got to go. She knows. Like you got to take it to Joyce because nobody else can handle like she. And so you get the pile on.
Absolutely. Right. And there's like this like building up of my sense of self-worth there.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I also noticed that part of my hero and relationships is, I know what their problem is and I know how to solve it because I've done so much work on myself.
And it has that little bit of, like, it's a little bit of poor you in that. Can you hear that's the hero. Because we think the hero is, I'm just thinking about the best for you, but it's not really accurate. The hero has to keep other people submissive, and more collapsed and not really supporting their own agency and their own ability to choose and take responsibility. So when people, like we see this classically with people who get bailed out, they mess up and then their parents say, oh, well, he just made a mistake. He's trying really hard. And then they don't let him or her experience or them experience the consequences of their choices.
Yeah. I also noticed that I go into a lot of projection in the hero, that I start to project on them something that maybe I need to address in myself.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. In my experience, there's all of the roles project, but they project different things. And and my sense is that the hero projects incapability onto others. This is something that you don't know how to do, and I know how to do it, and I can do it. Yeah, it's a little pat on the head. So projecting a kind of a diminishment of agency, and my sense is that the villain projects fault and blame. Instead of taking responsibility, it's your fault. And if you would just stop, and I can see that it's your fault, and everybody can see it's your fault. And then the victim projects, basically just incapability. Like, I can't. I wish I could, but I just can't. I'm just worn out today. And so I actually had, back in the day when I lived in Colorado, I remember one therapist, it was a body worker who was saying, she called me in the morning and said, my energy is feeling off today. And so I'm just not going to be coming to my appointment. I went, okay. So she was off my list. So I think that the victim also projects a utter lack of responsibility. That everybody else is responsible, because I tried. Yeah. Right. So I appreciate the message on projection. It's very, very useful.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. And Jody.
Yes, I had written down my issue, and then all of a sudden I had the thought, oh, I feel like the victim of this, and this, and this, and this in relation to that. And I'm happy to say what it is, if that helps.
To your choice.
So the issue is I feel angry at the lack of full accountability for a certain ex-president's actions and inactions. And I, at the same time, I have often gone to a higher place of greater plan and all this. But what I realized is I have for many years thought of the triangle as a triangular shaped closet that's about this big. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really, 15 inches in all directions, and so, with walls. And so I think of, and I don't spend a lot of time at all yelling at the TV or complaining about it, or it is what is
You
happening.
want us to think you don't spend time yelling at the TV, but we know.
But what I realized is that I can step away, but when I close that triangular closet door, all that stays there.
Ah.
This is new. This is a new one for me after years. That and that if I ever want to look at it again, it's always still right there. And so
And
I'm
how have you seen yourself stepping out of the closet? Just maybe even just, today as we've been experimenting here.
And what
Do you step out energetically? Do you see it next to you? How do you do it?
I don't know. I wasn't conscious of doing it before, and it was more of a concept. So I haven't physically done it. I haven't physically played with it because it's just come to me tonight.
Yeah.
And I haven't physically played with that.
Well, I love that you've brought it up, because it brings up for me also the aspect of making it physical that we use when we're playing with the triangle. And so if you want to continue playing with it, I suggest that you make your own cards. You could use like just an 8.5 by 11 and put villain and victim and hero on them, and then put them on the floor so that you can start stepping onto one, stepping off of one, stepping into the other. And that's something also that you can learn by looking at the essentials online. It'll show you how we do that. There are, I'm sure, other ways to do it, but when you make it physical, it makes it much easier to play with, because you can, in fact, when we used to do in-person trainings, we would have somebody explore an issue, and we would have everybody else, they had their cards too, and we would have people hold up the card that they were hearing and seeing and feeling that the person was acting out in that moment. And so it involved everybody participating at a physical level, and that also made it much more fun, and also made it easier to hear and to sense when I am or when you are in a role and when you're in open space. So I wanted to share with you a couple of other ways to step out of the triangle. And I've been convinced for quite a while now that the main human problem that we haven't solved is the one of taking 100% responsibility. That people in general don't know how to take responsibility, don't practice responsibility. And I think of responsibility as two things. One, being able to respond, to actually genuinely respond. And when we're caught in the triangle, we're not responding, we're reacting. And we're reacting out of a certain level of fear. And each one of the roles is also carrying fear. So I think it would be valuable for you, especially any of you who have done any of our approach to, that's right, you just push on it. Allie hasn't quite learned how to open the door yet, but she might do it today. She might get this is our cat, Allie. We have one who looks just like her, whose name is Greta, and she knows how to come through the door. So she might barge in here. So genuinely taking responsibility is moving from reacting to able to respond. And I think of responsibility as reclaiming your creativity, because you are always creating, but mostly it's unconscious creating, that you're creating out of patterns that you learned that has to do with who's up and who's down and who's blaming and who's feeling incapable and who's taking care of everybody else. And those we learn so much that they're kind of a default way of operating. If you look at any soap opera, you will see the victim. In fact, that could be amusing for you, is to look, because you think, oh, this is a new storyline. And I just want to tell you, it's not. It's the same old storyline. It's the core story of whose fault is it? No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. Well, let's go, like in couples, let's go and buy a major appliance, or have a baby or buy a new house instead of solving the problem. And so for me, when I really started getting response able was when I started noticing the connections between things. So my sense is what I call radical responsibility. Responsibility at the root is I claim my choosing. So, how was it that I enabled this, or I allowed this, or I promoted this? And with curiosity. So to genuinely take responsibility, I need to move out of the villain, especially self-villaining. So blaming myself is very popular. And then I get to be both the villain and the victim. Poor me, yeah, poor you. And that inner dialogue is so common for so many people, that to genuinely get curious about, okay, that happened. And it's happened more than once. And what does that have to do with me? There's a famous one that, from Gay example, that from years ago, where he's working with a fellow that was having relationship issues. And on about the second or the third session, the guy said, this is about the 13th relationship where I've heard the same thing. And I'm beginning to wonder if this has something to do with me. It was like, it only took him 13 times of like, but most of us, we're so entranced by the triangle, because here is the benefit of the triangle, is that you get a lot of adrenaline. So you get that adrenaline fuel. But the thing to know about adrenaline is that it's a non-renewable, short-acting drug. And it needs to then be escalated, because it'll, if you make that ha move with somebody, you'd blame them that ha, you get that burst of adrenaline, but then it very quickly wears off. And so the triangle tends to always escalate. And you'll see that in your own life. And you might just take a moment to look at your issue and take a look at, making that radical responsibility move of genuinely getting curious. And I've experienced that takes practice, because it's so easy to fall into villaining yourself, making yourself wrong. Well, there you go again. How many times are you going to do that? So the inner triangle is, for many people, much more powerful than what you could see externally. That people are moving from the, oh, you messed up again. Oh, yeah, I messed up again. Oh, let's go get ice cream. And that continues to then escalate that hit of adrenaline. So for me, the big issue is, how are we going to replace? What could replace adrenaline? What could be so much more interesting, so much more fulfilling than that hit of adrenaline, which is really a one note. It's like, bang, and that's it. But the nuances, particularly of the second thing I want to share with you, give you a new fuel source. But I want to just have you take a moment, because I'm just touching into this, but it's a big thing. On our Foundation for Conscious Living website, we have a whole page on responsibility, and I recommend you take a look at that because it's got great wonder questions and about helping you to shift into agency, actual choice. So the big benefit of taking responsibility is that I become in charge of my own choices, and I allow other people to be in charge of their choices. And so that's the hero move that gets you out of the triangle, is to literally let other people receive the feedback from the choices that they've made. This is especially valuable for teenagers. I remember with our son, it took about 5 years. It was a 5-year project of really setting up situations and responding to what was happening in a way that would foster genuine ability to respond. So that has to do with keeping agreements, what happens when you don't keep agreements. But for each of us, I'm imagining, because you're on this call, that you probably tend more toward over responsibility. That because you're givers and you can see what's needed, that you just step right in there and help people, because you can do that and it's easy. And what happens then is that they get deprived of actually choosing, noticing what happened, making the connection between what they did, the choice they made, and then what occurred. So radical responsibility, I'm pretty convinced could solve 90% of the problems on the planet. And how I know that people are not taking responsibility is that right after COVID, the very first thing that people did is go out and litter everywhere. And I thought, well, it kind of deflated my assessment of the possibility of humans continuing to remain on the planet. If we cannot even fucking not litter, the level of responsibility that people are taking is, it's really a big learning lesson for most people. So the next one is the power of authenticity. My experience, and you can check this out with your issue, is that there's always a lie in the triangle. There's always something that's not accurate, that doesn't match what you're experiencing, that doesn't, it is not authentic. And one of the things I love about authenticity is that it's the same root as authoring. So when you start communicating in a way that's unarguable, you start really authoring your life. And my physical experience of authenticity is aligning. It's not a moral issue. It is an alignment. I'm matching. And when I am able to express more and more accurately what I'm actually experiencing, the triangle dissolves. And I'm looking here at my notes here, where it says, "You hurt me." Is that arguable? Yeah, that's arguable. So what's under that that's not arguable? When you said that, I felt my breath stop. That's not arguable. And it allows me to locate my own experience. And I also see it and sense it creating an opening for connection. We think that when we're on the triangle that we're connecting, but we're actually not. Our roles are interacting with each other, but there's no nourishment in there. And so we keep hungering for nourishment, and we keep escalating the triangle, thinking that there's nourishment there. I don't remember who it was that said this, that humans, unlike rats, will continue going down a path that has no cheese at the end. So even rats will not do that. Yeah, Jody, do you have something?
Yeah, real quick, when you talked about it's the roles interacting, I thought of those Rock'em Sock'em robots. So the real people are over here and they're controlling their Rock'em Sock'em robots out there.
So true. And now we have so many video games. That's literally a lot of what's going on for people, is that they're on their video games and their roles are interacting with other roles, but they're not receiving any nourishment of connection. And so my experience is that focusing on what can I say that is unarguable. And fortunately, we have a whole page on this on our Foundation for Conscious Living website. We have a whole page on authenticity, which will give you examples of what does it sound like when I say something that matches my experience? And what happens for the other person? That's where I found the great value, is that when I say something unarguable or inarguable, the other person, it literally creates an opening of breath, of being able to see the other person as an equal, and an opening for the other person to respond. And so authenticity, when we've been presenting, when Gay and I have been presenting it in public for many, many years, this goes back 40 years. When we start talking about saying something unarguable and telling the truth, great uproar occurs. We actually, in one studio audience, we had somebody stand up, we had a woman stand up and say, I've been lying to my husband for the last 29 years and it's really supported our relationship. And everybody went, and everybody clapped. It was like, I thought, whoa, we have our work cut out for us. That you don't want to, that's not nice. You shouldn't say that to other people. We have so many messages about that it's dangerous to be authentic, that you're going to get in trouble. And in fact, people have been killed for telling the truth, and that is still happening. And so you can create a space of safety for being authentic with your own presence and your own authenticity. You can let other people know that you are a safe space for people to be real, because being real and exchanging actual connection with others provides a kind of nourishment that nothing else does. And also, I think that authenticity is incredibly sexy. When people are being authentic, you can see their spirit, their liveliness. And I get goosebumps when I'm in the presence of somebody who's really speaking authentically. It wakes up this level of, woo, okay, now we're here, and we're really interacting, and it allows us to create new solutions. So the big thing about the triangle is we go running around and think we're doing something new, and it is the same old. It always ends up in the same place. And so then we think, oh, well, if I just escalate, if I just do a little bit more, if I just hero more, or, I explain to you exactly how you're doing it wrong, then we'll be able to solve the problem. So the element of authenticity, I'd like you to look at your issue that you've written down and see if you can find one phrase that you can say about that is real and that is absolutely true. In other words, that if you said it to somebody, they would not argue with it. Just to give yourself some practice. It doesn't have to be profound, by the way. We get authenticity confused with profundity. So it could be just something like, one of the biggest breakthroughs that one of my clients made was right after he said, oh, you mean my palms are sweaty? I said, yeah, just exactly. And so right after he said that, he opened up to his wife and said, I don't know why I'm so angry, which was also unarguable. And she dropped right in and she started crying, and their relationship shifted in that moment, from that moment of authenticity. So it's well worth practicing. And how you can get involved in the triangle is because you won't feel very skillful at it. You're gonna be awkward. And what I found is that my intention really paves the way over awkwardness. And, if my intention is to connect and to see the other as equal and to collaborate, then that actually does work. Solutions. So this is our, solution here is creating a cat door, but now we have these additional problems, but I'd much rather have these problems than the one before we had a cat door. So I have play written down here, and play when I'm working with somebody, when we're exploring, especially when I'm working with a group or couples, and suddenly somebody gets, what they've been up to, and they start laughing, the whole, when it gets funny, that you're playing. And if it's not funny, that's really how I know I'm stuck. If I'm saying inside my mind, this is not funny, or I could even be saying it out loud, this isn't funny. I know I'm stuck. And what people do is flail around and think they should be doing something different than they're doing. But the real key is to exaggerate what you're already doing. And so I want to have you, going back to your item again, I'd like you to just take on the posture of the role that you most hang out in when you're in this issue. And I'd like you to exaggerate it, because if you're like that, yeah, that's great, Michelle. Yeah. So if you were just sort of mildly touching into it, you wouldn't get the energy that's invested in it. So exaggerating allows you to step out of your cognitive brain and into your creative brain, your whole body brain. And when you start exaggerating, then it opens up all kinds of new choices and new possibilities. And I also experienced this relief, when I'm playing, that, I don't have to try to get it right. I don't have to figure it out. I can simply let myself start playing with it, just like you would on the playground, and then new solutions will start showing up. So what people generally won't do is let themselves exaggerate, because they're afraid they're going to look stupid or silly, or people are going to make fun of them, which they might, but they're going to do that anyway. And if you exaggerate, you get to have fun regardless of what other people are up to. And I've seen over and over again, it's kind of a transformational principle. If you go in the direction that things are going and you just keep exaggerating, that the dynamic will shift, but it'll shift in a way that's unpredictable. It'll shift in a way that fosters discovery and something new rather than the same old, same old. So what I want to recommend to you is radical responsibility, to the core authenticity, and play. And all of those, you can find resources for all of those on both of our websites, both Hendricks.com, but also the Foundation for Conscious Living.org has lots of videos, lots of ways to play. And also these gatherings are a great way for you to play and to have company in the act of playing and creating and co-creating with each other. So, look at that. She brings it in a minute early. Ta-da! So thank you so much for sharing what I think is really one of our, most essential dynamics going on right now. And we're going to have more there are going to be more classes on the triangle, so you can continue playing with that and different aspects of it. And so thanks so much for your company. I appreciate you being here, and look forward to connecting in other ways. So, take care. Bye now.